The first time I heard him before I saw him. Branches snapping. A man's voice, hoarse from yelling. The sharp, two-syllable command every search dog knows by heart. "Seek! Seek!" Headlamps cut thin tunnels through the dark, catching moss, bark, empty air. Somewhere down the slope, a radio crackled and died in static. The night in the pines felt too big, too old, too patient. Then the dog changed its bark. It stopped sounding like noise and started sounding like an alarm. "There," someone shouted. "Pike's dog's got something." By the time I scrambled down the wet hillside, grabbing at roots, sliding on needles, they'd already found her. She was curled in a tangle of deadfall in the bottom of a narrow draw. Red tank top, gray running vest, one shoe missing, bare leg scraped bloody where she'd slid. Lily Chen, 19. Her skin looked wrong under the headlamp beams. Not dead white. Not yet. That waxy in-between color that means the body fought for hours and lost. A volunteer knelt beside her, shaking, one gloved hand over his mouth. The dog whined, pawing at her vest. "Easy, Scout," a man said quietly. "Easy." He was standing just behind her head, one hand on the dog's harness, the other braced on a trunk, mud on his knees, pine needles in his hair, an orange SAR jacket with the reflective tape worn dull from use. "Time of discovery?" someone called. He checked his watch, the movement precise, almost gentle. 31 past 19, he said. "Mark it." I didn't know his name yet, but every other voice in that ravine did. "Pike found her." "Yeah, of course he did. Who else?" Later, when they told me to write a hero piece, that's the image I kept seeing. Not the candles, not the vigils, not the t-shirts with his face on them. Just a man in an orange jacket standing over a dead girl, hand on a dog's collar, breathing hard in the dark. Everyone there thought they were looking at a savior. I didn't realize, not yet, that I might be looking at the person the woods had been waiting for all along. By the time they actually did put his face on t-shirts, 3 families had already buried their dead with his arms around them. They called him all the things desperate towns invent for the people who bring their children home. Guardian of the woods, angel of the searchlines, the man who finds the lost. His real name was Daniel Pike, 42, divorced, former mechanic, volunteer search and rescue leader for a county that had never budgeted for a professional one. If a kid wandered off a trail, they called Dan. If an elderly hiker didn't come back by dark, they called Dan. If a college student's car was found empty at the edge of a logging road, they called Dan. He always came. He always found something. Sometimes a shoe, sometimes a backpack, sometimes a body. On paper, my assignment was simple. The email from my editor was one line that sounded like a break. Small-town search and rescue hero, 3 big saves in 2 years. Locals treat him like a saint. Go spend a weekend with him, bring back something we can run, and maybe a podcast if it sings. I'd just finished 6 months on nursing home neglect, rotting bed sores, forgotten patients. Phone calls at 2 in the morning from daughters who couldn't sleep because they were afraid their parents wouldn't wake up. I wanted trees and dogs and a man in a reflective vest saying, "We brought her back just in time." Missing hikers sounded wholesome. Sunlight through leaves, coffee in enamel mugs, a story my mother could read without needing a drink after. So I drove 3 hours into the hills, rehearsing questions about courage and community, and walked straight into something that felt wrong. Not at first. Not in a way I could put in my notes. Just wrong, like a picture that looks fine, until you notice one detail that doesn't belong and can't stop seeing it. I saw Dan for the first time under fluorescent lights, not moonlight. He was at the hardware store, arguing with a clerk about rope. "Static is better for haul systems," he was saying, running his thumb along a coil. "Dynamics for falls. We're not climbing. We're moving people. I need control, not bounce. His jacket was the same one from the ravine. Faded orange SIR, reflective tape scratched, name patch crooked. Pike, his eyes flicked over to me. That quick assessment people who spend time in bad places learn early. "Can I help you?" he asked. Up close, he didn't look like a saint. He looked like a man the woods had been chewing on for years and hadn't quite finished. Sun worn into his skin. Stubble a few hours past intentional. Thumbs permanently stained with grease that no soap could touch. "I'm here for you, actually," I said. "Emma, from the city paper." He blinked once. "Oh," he said. "Right. Becky said you were coming." Becky was the county PIO. On the phone, she'd sounded a little starstruck. "Wait till you meet him," she'd said. "He's the real deal. Folks around here practically pray to him." In the hum of the hardware store, he looked more tired than holy. "I'm just grabbing some things," he said now, nodding at the rope. "We've got a debrief at 6 if you want to see the barn." "The barn?" I asked. "Where we stage," he said. "Old fire hall." He paid in cash, nodded to the clerk, and walked out into the late afternoon light with the loose, efficient gait of someone whose body understood hills and distance better than furniture. I followed. The barn was 10 minutes out of town, where the asphalt forgot what it was and turned to gravel without warning. It had once been a volunteer fire station. The siren on the roof was frozen mid-tilt, pointing at nothing. Inside, it smelled like dust, rubber, and burnt coffee. Maps papered the walls, USGS quads, satellite printouts, hand-drawn sketches of ridges and creek beds only locals knew by name. A whiteboard near the door was divided into columns. Lost person name, age, experience, last known point, last seen wearing. Underneath, in blue marker, Lily Chen, 19, trail runner. Last seen, 1640, Pine Ridge Trailhead parking lot. Wearing, black shorts, red tank, gray running vest. Clipped to the corner with a magnet was the same smiling race photo I'd seen online. I'd pulled her file before I came. Day 1, full-scale search, dogs, drones, volunteers. Nothing. Day 2, scaled-down effort. Sheriff's office starts using the word recovery. Day 3, official search being wound down. Dan pushes back. He told them, "You haven't cleared the east drop properly," Becky had said. They said the dogs would have hit there if she went down. He kept saying, "It's shaded. Wind's weird in there. You can't trust scent." On the afternoon of day 3, he went back with 5 volunteers and 2 of his own dogs. They found her in under 2 hours. Now, in the barn, he was rolling that same rope from the hardware store into a neat loop on the table. "You've been out there since she went missing?" I asked. "Off and on," he said. "Official ops ended day 2. We kept going." He didn't say we found her dead. He didn't say we were too late. He said kept going. Behind him, gear was laid out with the kind of obsessive organization that didn't come from grant money. Radios, matched and labeled. First aid kits filled, weighed, refilled. Stacks of high-vis vests with search peeling a little at the edges. "You want to talk to the team?" he asked. "They'll be here for debrief." "Debrief," I repeated. Even though I tapped Lily's photo. By the time I met Sarah Nolan, she was already a missing poster. 31 years old, brown hair to her shoulders, 5'6", last seen in a navy blazer and black jeans. In the photo, the sheriff's office pushed to every phone in the county. She was mid-laugh at some office party, holding a paper plate with a cupcake on it. The alert on my screen read, "Last seen leaving work at 5:12 p.m. in downtown Clearwater. Her car was found this morning at a pull-off near the state forest. Phone inside. No sign of Sarah. No sign of Sarah." In towns like this, everyone knows what those words mean. She's already in the woods. And if she's in the woods, sooner or later, Daniel Pike will be too. He knocked on my motel door just after sunrise. The sound was too soft for what it carried. I hadn't slept much. The curtains were thin, and my notes were loud. His name was everywhere in them. When I opened the door, he was there in the same worn orange SR jacket, a dented thermos in one hand, a pack slung over his shoulder. "You still want to see it for real?" he asked. "The search," I said. He nodded. "It's not the TV version," he said. "But if you're going to write about us, you should see what actually happens, not just the part with the microphones." "The TV version is why I'm here," I said. "The hero, the man who finds the lost." The corner of his mouth twitched. "TV likes the simple story," he said. "Come on, briefing's at 7. His truck smelled like damp rope, dog, and old coffee. 2 shepherd mixes watched me from a crate in the back, eyes bright, tails thumping. "Coda and Finch," Dan said. "They complain if I leave without them." Town slid past the windows and thinned into trees. "Do you always go out on day 1?" I asked. "When they let me," he said. "Sometimes they want to do their initial sweep first." He put air quotes around the phrase. "That bother you?" I asked. "It used to," he said. "Now I plan around it. If you know where they'll waste time, you can guess where they won't be." The pull-off where they'd found Sarah's car was nothing. A widened shoulder, a strip of gravel, a break in the ditch where people had been lazy turning around. By the time we arrived, it was busy. 2 cruisers, a state trooper, an SUV with County SAR peeling on the side. Volunteers in mismatched jackets and hats clustered near the tape. The air smelled of exhaust, cheap gas station coffee, and the cold, green breath of the forest. The car was a tired silver sedan, parked nose in toward the trees. Driver's door pulled almost shut, not latched. Sheriff's tape looped around it like a half-hearted halo. A deputy checked Dan's name off a clipboard. "Sheriff's at command," she said. "He wants you inside." "Inside what?" I asked. She jerked her chin toward the trees. "Command post," she said. 20 yards in, the road noise vanished as if someone had closed a door. The command post was a green canvas tent in a small clearing. Folding tables, maps, radios, a generator humming in the corner. The sheriff stood over a topo map with a paper cup of coffee, his uniform pulled open at the throat. "Pike," he said, looking up. "Good. We need you on this one." "Morning, Sheriff," Dan said. For a second, the air tightened. There was weight in the way they looked at each other. Respect, dependence, annoyance, all braided together. "This is Emma," Dan added. "Reporter from the city. Becky cleared it." The sheriff gave me the quick, flat scan every cop learns. "Don't get in the way," he said. "And don't live tweet my scene." "Fair," I said. He tapped the map. "Here's the pull-off," he said. "Car appears sometime between 6 and 8 last night. Plow driver came through at 6 and swears it wasn't there. Couple drove past at 8. They saw it. Didn't think twice. We got the missing person call early this morning. Did the usual checks. Hit traffic cams. Only vehicle we've got is hers heading this direction." "No cameras out here," Dan said. "No cameras," the sheriff agreed. "No witnesses. Phone and purse in the front seat. Keys on the floorboard. No sign of struggle we can trust. Too much contamination already." "So, from a search perspective," Dan said, eyes on the contours, "we assume she went on foot from the car into the tree line until we prove otherwise." "Exactly," the sheriff said. "We start with a grid out from the lot. You and your dogs on inner ring. If she's close, I want you to hit scent before the day warms." "Wind's wrong for tight circles," Dan said. "Look," he traced the lines, following the soundless pull of slope and ridge. "Air's going to slide up this way and curl into this ravine," he said. "Anything down there will sit." He tapped a narrow basin where the contour lines crowded. We've got teams headed along the ridge now, the sheriff said. 2 and 3. They'll stay high, Dan said. If she dropped, they'll walk right over her. You can take the drop, the sheriff said. You and whoever you trust not to sue us if they break an ankle. Dan's eyes flicked to me. You afraid of steep ground? He asked. Not yet, I said. He almost smiled. Good, he said. Stay behind me. Step where I step. If I tell you to stop, you stop. He looked back at the map one more time. Send the others where you like, he said to the sheriff. I'll take the draw. In some forests, silence feels empty. Here it felt crowded. Leaves underfoot swallowed every footstep a little too quickly. Light slanted through bare branches in thin, pale sheets. Dan moved like he'd built the place. He saw sign I would have missed even with a guidebook. A scuff on a root. A snapped fern at knee height. A faint line where something heavy had slid. Coda, search, he murmured. The dogs quartered ahead of us, noses down, tails high, bodies flowing around trees like water. How often does this end well? I asked quietly. Well, he echoed. 12 hours out. Well means breathing. Conscious and talking as bonus points. And the other times? I asked. He didn't look back. The other times we carry, he said. We followed a narrow animal path that leaned toward the ravine he'd pointed out on the map. The air there felt different, heavier, colder, like a basement. Halfway down the slope, Coda stopped. His ears pricked, his tail dropped. The hair along his spine rose in a slow wave. Dan froze. What is it? I whispered. He raised one hand without turning. Hold, he said. Finch, farther left, locked up too. Nose cutting the air. Coda, Dan said softly. Show me. The dog moved forward, step by careful step, toward a tangle of brush where the ground suddenly fell away. Dan pushed a branch aside. His shoulders tensed. Stay here, he said. Is it? I started. Emma. Stay, he snapped. He slid down the loose dirt sideways, one hand catching roots, boots sending stones rattling ahead of him. I edged forward just enough to see over the lip. A flash of navy, a pale hand, a dark spill of hair caught on a branch above an unnatural angle of neck. Sarah. Dan reached her and knelt, fingers finding the side of her throat, then her wrist. He didn't shout for medics, didn't bark commands. The way he moved told me everything before his mouth opened. He looked up at me. Call it in, he said. His voice was very calm. She's not... My voice broke. She's gone, he said. Neck. Lividity. It's done. My fingers fumbled with the phone. This is Emma Holt, I told the deputy when she answered. I'm with Pike. Quarter mile maybe, southeast of the pull-off down in a ravine. He says, she's deceased. Static. Then, Pike with you? Yes. Of course he is, she muttered. Hold your position. We'll ping his GPS and send crime scene in. Of course he is. I hung up and looked back down. From where I knelt, I saw pieces. Her shoe twisted at a wrong angle, her hand half buried in leaves. His orange jacket a bright wound of color in the green-gray. If this had been a news segment, this is where they'd freeze the frame. Man who finds the lost beside another body in the woods. Tragic. Inevitable. Clean. But it wasn't clean. Not in my head. I watched him touch Sarah's shoulder, brush hair from her face, his thumb catching on mud at the edge of a bruise. Compassion, I would have called it in any other story. Here, it felt like something with teeth. He always finds them, the locals had said. What if that's because he knows exactly where to look? They took my statement twice. Once right there, as crime scene techs belayed themselves down the slope and worked, crouched and careful around Sarah's body. Once back at the tent, away from trees and dogs and the gravity of that ravine. Both times, I told the same sequence. We hiked in. The dogs alerted. He saw something first. He sent me back. He climbed down. He checked her. He said she was gone. All true, just not the whole truth. The part I left out was in my chest, not in my notes. That somewhere between my first step off the road and my last word to the detective, the story I thought I was telling had cracked. I was no longer trailing a hero to write about courage in bad conditions. I was standing inside a pattern I didn't understand, with a man the town had already chosen to mythologize. And if I said that out loud right then, in the shadow of Sarah's parents screaming, they'd eat me alive before they ever looked at him. So I shut my mouth, for the moment. Back in the motel that night, I opened my laptop and did the thing every cop tells you not to do. I looked for patterns until I saw them. Lily, the runner. The old man in the ditch. The girl in the crashed car. Sarah in the ravine. Megan, carved into the bark, and then gone like smoke. 2 found alive. 3 found dead. 1 never found at all. Dan's name weaving through every article, press release, and blurry Facebook post. Volunteer rescuer Daniel Pike located. Pike pushed to keep the search going. Pike says he just did what anyone would do. If I'd been an algorithm, I might have circled his name in red and called it done. Human beings are messier than that, which is what scared me. Because the more I read, the more it felt like 2 truths existed at once and refused to cancel each other out. Truth 1. People vanished into those woods for the usual ugly reasons. Anger, despair, bad luck, bad timing. Truth 2. If Dan was anywhere near the case, he was the center of the story by the time it ended. Maybe that was all it was. Maybe he was just the stubborn one who stayed when everyone else went home. Maybe. The maybes didn't help me sleep. He was waiting on the tailgate of his truck in the morning, as if he'd been there all night. His coffee had gone cold. His radio sat beside him, turned down, but not off. "You look like I feel," he said. "You always take reporters on body runs?" I asked. "Just the ones who ask nicely," he said. We looked at each other. "You're angry," he said. "At who?" I asked. He shrugged. "Me. The woods. The way the world is," he said. "People come up here wanting miracles. They don't like the exchange rate." "You always find them," I said. "That's the job," he said. "Not everyone finds as many as you," I said. "Not everyone is stupid enough to go out as often as I do," he said. I took a breath. "Yesterday on the radio," I said, "the deputy said if she ever went missing, she wouldn't want you leading the search party." His jaw tightened, just once. "People say things when they're tired," he said, "and when they don't like needing someone." "Is that what this is?" I asked. "They don't like needing you." "They like results," he said. "They don't like what it reminds them of when I walk in the room." "And what's that?" I asked. "That nobody's really in control," he said, "no matter how many maps you pin to the walls." "Or," I said, "that maybe someone is in control more than they should be." He watched me. "You want to say something," he said quietly. "Say it plain." My heart hammered. "Do you pick them?" I asked. "Do you choose who gets lost where you can be the one to find them?" Silence. "If I really were what you're poking at," he said at last, "do you think I'd be sitting in the motel parking lot chatting with you?" "Predators talk," I said. "They explain themselves. They like an audience." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "You've been writing about killers too long," he said. "You're seeing teeth in every shadow." "I saw you in that ravine," I said. "I heard the deputy say, 'Of course he is.' Like it was a punchline. I've read your name in too many stories that end with candles and vigils. I'm allowed to ask." "Sure," he said. "And I'm allowed to answer." He hopped off the tailgate and slung his pack over his shoulder. "When that girl disappeared," he said, and he didn't have to say Megan's name for me to hear it. "They called me 3 days late, told her parents to wait, told me not to waste resources. By the time anybody admitted she was really gone, the woods had a head start." He rubbed at a scar on his knuckle. I walked until my feet bled, he said. I slept on maps. I looked her parents in the eyes and said, "We're doing everything we can," and watched those eyes go from hope to something there isn't a word for. He looked up. "And we never found her," he said. "That's what started this, not some urge to play God." "Something started it," I said. He studied my face. "You really want to see how it started?" he asked. "Yes," I said. He nodded toward the trees. "Then come on," he said. "It's a short walk." He didn't take me to the barn or the command tent. He took me to a smaller pull-off half a mile down the road. No tape, no cars. Just a wooden post with a fading trail marker and a path almost worn back into the woods. We walked in silence. The forest here felt older, less trampled. He stopped at a bend where a faint side trail peeled off through thicker brush. "Look here," he said. At first I saw nothing. Then my eyes adjusted, and I saw the letters carved on the underside of a low branch. Meg, fresh enough when it was made to have left clean, pale wounds in the bark. Old enough now to have gone dark with weather and time. "You carved that?" I asked. "She did," he said. "Camera on the trail caught her here. She left the road, came up this way, stopped under this branch at 1:16 a.m., did that, then kept walking." "You saw the footage?" I said. "The sheriff showed me after," he said. "Off the record. Said, 'This is where you lost her.'" "What did you do?" I asked. "What do you think?" he said. "I walked. I called. I dragged half this county through every ravine and deer trail within 10 miles. And then, nothing. No body. No sign. The world didn't give her back." He stared at the little carved name like it might move. "I'm not the thing that takes them," he said. "I'm what's left after. Sometimes I get there in time. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes there isn't any in time to begin with." "Then why are you always there?" I asked. "Why you, over and over?" "Because I don't clock out," he said. "Because I don't have a budget or a boss telling me to pull back when the cameras get bored. Because when everyone else says, 'We've done enough,' I'm still out here arguing with trees. Or because they're drawn to you," I said. "To the idea of you. To the man the town has decided finds the lost. You don't just search for stories, Dan. You are a story. People step into it." He shook his head. "I don't make them walk out here," he said. "Their bosses, their families, their secrets do that work for me." "And you?" I asked. "What do you get out of it?" He thought about that for a long time. "Sometimes," he said finally, "I get to take someone back alive." It sounded like confession more than boast. 2 weeks after Sarah's body came out of the ravine, a teenage boy went missing on the lake. Kayak overturned. Life jacket still in the truck. Wind cutting hard across the water. I wasn't there. I watched it play out on my laptop, far away, with my stomach in a knot. The helicopter footage was shaky, zoomed too far, but you could still see it. The bright orange kayak, upside down in choppy water. The tiny figure clinging to a half-submerged log 50 yards away. The Sayar boat closing in. And then, there he was. Dan, in a too-big flotation vest, hauling the boy over the side, shouting something lost in the rotor noise. The kid coughing, sobbing, alive. "Volunteer rescuer Daniel Pike credits teamwork and training," the anchor said over the clip. "He says conditions could have turned fatal in another 20 minutes. They cut to him on the dock, hair plastered down, face pale with cold. "The lake was kind to us tonight," he said into the mic. "That's all." The boy's mother was behind him, hands on her mouth, shoulders shaking. I paused the video there. Hero shot. The same jacket. The same man. The same questions twisting in my chest. He is the reason that boy is breathing. He is also the reason Sarah's parents will forever picture an orange jacket when they close their eyes. Both things are true. That's what I wrote. The piece I finally turned in was not called The Guardian of the Woods or The Man Who Finds the Lost. It was called The Man We Call When People Go Missing, and the stories we need him to fit. It talked about the saves and the failures, about Megan's carved name, about Lily's shrine, about Sarah's car pointed at the trees, about the jokes on the police radio and the way people argued about him over coffee and message boards. It didn't call him a hero. It didn't call him a monster. It called him something worse, for readers who like clean lines, necessary. My editor hated it. "Is he a saint or a psycho?" she said. "You can't spend 4,000 words refusing to answer the question." "That is the answer," I said. "We don't know. We shouldn't get to know. We shouldn't be allowed to file a human being in one tidy box and go to bed." "Messy doesn't trend," she said. "Pick an angle." I didn't. The story went up online, small and sideways between louder headlines. Comments flooded in anyway. "He saved my niece. Don't you dare smear him." "He promised us they'd never stop looking for my sister. They did. He's no hero." People walk into the woods because life is hell, not because of some magic search guy. You journalists always need a villain. Leave him alone. Maybe the real villain is the system that needs a volunteer mechanic to do the work of 10 paid rescuers. Everyone read their own reflection in the words and argued with that. A week later, my phone buzzed. "Unknown number." "Read it," the text said. "Better than the t-shirt version. Thanks for not making me a cartoon." D. I stared at the screen. "You getting heat?" I wrote back. "Heat is weather," he replied. "I work outside. I didn't know if that meant he was fine. I wasn't sure he knew either." Time moved. Fires, elections, scandals. Other people's disasters needed covering. But every so often, a headline from that county floated past my feed. "Teen brothers spend night lost in woods. Found safe. Elderly hunter missing 14 hours located by volunteers. Search ongoing for missing woman near state line. Always, somewhere in the middle. Coordinated by volunteer rescuer Daniel Pike." Sometimes the article ended with the word "found." Sometimes with the word "body." Sometimes there was no follow-up at all. The gap remained. In those gaps, I thought about him. Orange jacket. Dogs. Headlamp cutting across trees while the rest of the county slept. Chasing ghosts. Chasing statistics. Chasing something only he and the woods really understood. The last time I saw him, months later, it was by accident. I was cutting through town on my way to another assignment and stopped at the diner with the tired waitress and 2 strong coffee. He was there, just like she'd said the first time. Corner booth, coffee, eggs, toast. His radio lay on the table next to his plate, turned down low. I watched him for a moment over the top of my menu. He looked older. Or maybe I just saw him more clearly. The radio crackled. "Becky to Pike. You on?" He picked it up. "Go," he said. "We've got a call from a family near the state line," she said. "Their grandfather went out to check his deer stand last night, never came back. Truck's still in the drive. You know the area." He closed his eyes for a heartbeat. "Text me the address," he said. "I'm 10 minutes out." He put some bills under his plate, grabbed his jacket, and slid out of the booth. On his way to the door, he noticed me. He didn't look surprised. "Still telling stories?" he asked. "Still getting lost in them," I said. "You?" He gave that same small, crooked half-smile. "Still going after," he said. He pushed the door open. Cold air and morning light spilled in around him as he stepped out, radio already rising to his mouth. For a long second, I watched the doorway he'd gone through. And I realized something I didn't put in the article, because there wasn't a neat way to say it without sounding crazy. If I ever drove out on that road on a bad night, parked facing the trees, and decided to keep walking past the last trail marker. I still don't know whether I'd hoped to see his orange jacket coming toward me through the dark, or pray that I never did.